Hey guys, welcome to Art 13131. We're in week 9 still and talking about assignment number 17 and the homework. 17 is now you're going to do an ink drawing, okay, with one or more of the ink techniques you learned to use in number 16. But I don't want I want you to show the shape of something as opposed to just something flat or I just drew this, and used ink. I want you to show the shape of it like you did with the ball or the balls and the egg or another item like I said you could use that had a rounded edge to it to show the light source on your subject with the marks you're making from the pen rather than something flat or just I used pen and I made marks. Okay, you want to show a shape of something, okay? I'll show you some examples of that, and then the homework is still life drawing showing ellipses, which I will show you as well. Let's start off with the ink drawing. So, yeah, there's some fantastic ink drawings that you can do. All of these are showing a shape in some way or another. Because of the light and light source, of course, that we've talked about all along. Some are more successful than others, I think. There's a lot of light and darks here showing the shape of the face, and there's rounded edges and shadow edges and light edges or light areas. But these are pretty intricate. I understand that. Okay, so maybe you're not going to get quite to this intricacy, but maybe. But I want you to show the shape of something when you do that. Even if it's abstract like this, look at the wings, but they have a shape because of the light source. There's light and dark areas to them. That's why they look like they're folding over and rounded in different areas. And the same with the bee on the slightly different marks, darker area right here in the light area, showing the curve of the body. So that's all done with the marks. More intense marks make a darker area. Less intense marks make the light area, and using no marks makes the lightest area. Of course, extremely intense marks that cover almost everything are the darkest areas. Let's look at the different techniques we talked about in the ink techniques. So we have the stippling. Here's a kitten in stippling. It's still a successful drawing, although it's not really showing a lot of shape, but you see a bit of shape of the ear here, how it comes in here. This part's in the shadow of the light source, I would say, is coming from this direction, the left over here. But it's not really represented on the side of the nose all that much, but because of all the other dark um, where the stripes are and whatnot, and the difference between the body and the chin, it does take on some sort of shape. So, and then other ones actually look even better with that. That's not stippling, but it's another ink technique. But there's a darker side to the face over here and a lighter side. That's just showing a lot of shape. So it rounds over into the darker area because this is cut off from the light source. Same with the back of the ears and the inside of the ear here. All that gets accomplished because of your shading techniques. And here's a good one with stippling, showing all of that cast shadow. And then a little bit of a reflection area here, so that separates the dark of the shadow area of the pear from the cast shadow, because you have a little bit of reflection area from the light bouncing off the table onto your subject, onto the pear. And then, of course, this is more lit up. Back here, very lit up. So the light source is coming from right back here and coming on the pear this way, leaving this to be the shadow area. But still, there's a lot of reflection area. It's not totally dark. But anytime you're changing into one from the other tone on rounded surfaces, it's gradual. So there'll be a very light area, and then it starts gradually getting darker and darker and darker, and then possibly lighter and lighter and lighter in this area, and then darker and darker and darker. It's a gradual thing, okay? It doesn't suddenly do it. That's how you're using these techniques to accomplish that. All the dips and folds and crevices in this rose and all the petals are represented by the dark areas and the light areas. The light shining on the subject. Some of it is cut off from the light. That's why it's the darker area in there. And then you're going to put these very intense amount of stippling in there, okay? And then very little here. You can see where the dots are not very intense. They're not congested. But in the dark area they are. And then everything in between, gradually going into other tones. More and more and more until less and less and less. This is all a gradual thing. Okay, so that's stippling. Even this has shape because of the edges being more intense and the inside being less intense, but the outside more intense. I think this is a more more of a student view here. Well, that's probably a student view too. I don't know. Anyway, you can see the intensity and the less intense marks that make a shape happen. Okay, so I'll say that over and over and over and over and over and over. But you can go in here and see it everywhere with the stippling. And yes, they did use some lines here for the eyelashes. But the rest of it typically is all the stippling, okay? Even when they make a line, it might be a line of stipples. Okay, eyebrows, I can see that. Okay, no, it's not. If you wanted to do something like that. Okay, so numerous ideas here. Let's go into cross-hatching and see what that does. Okay, so there's a multitude of ideas here as well. The apple's pretty rough, but it gets the point across. It's kind of scratchy though, right? But it is an apple, okay? But it's very scratchy surface to the apple, as opposed to something like this. Oh, come on. Okay, there it is. It's still a little scratchy. It's not as smooth as something else, but that's the thing with these marks from a pen. They are going to look a little scratchy, but I think everybody understands it's pen marks. So this isn't really a scratchy surface on the donut, but it sort of looks that way. But this is cross hatching. So you have single hatching here, and then crossing here where you want it darker, and then less over here where it's maybe 2, because it's not going to be as light as this or this, but a little lighter than this. So that's how you're determining how many marks to cross over, is how you're going to get a lighter area to a darker area. And that's all gradual, okay? Unless there's a sharp edge to something. But if it's rounded edges, it is gradual. Same with this. And I did do some lines here for the eyelashes. But the rest of the eye is all the hatching. Back and forth lines, okay? This is kind of almost a scribble use of cross hatching, because it's not perfect. They're kind of going with the contour of the shape of the face. Like here, rounds off here, rounds off coming down in here and around here. So that's what they're doing with that one. Hatch and cross. Oh. Anyway. I didn't write that. Let's look at scribbling, which I kind of like a lot. Yeah, this is pretty amazing stuff. And it's all scribble marks. It's, very intense areas, very light areas, and you determine where those are. Your pencil does not, or your pen does not have to be on the paper consistently to get that done. It can be brought off and brought down in different places. But it's pretty intense, isn't it? And it really starts working. And then you could scribble and use the eyes a little more perfect. And then you have a focal point there of the eyes being more of the focus. And the rest of the face is kind of coming off of that. Abstract stuff, but it's representational in a way, right? When you have a whole missing area here and a very dark cavity here. But it's still, we know that's a face. And it has been altered slightly, but you'll see tons of ideas here with scribbling. Most of them are faces, but you don't have to do that. You can do a rabbit. There's a scribble rabbit. But put shape into it, okay? Don't just scribble it all the same tone. This is a darker tone here than here, and down in here, and down in here where the light isn't hitting, and around the head. So you have to put those darker and lighter areas in no matter what marks you're making, okay? Many ideas, not all of them are human face or animal. This is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, so there's your ideas with that. Let's go one more and do contour cross hatching, if I can spell. Yeah, Sarah was right about that one. And a lot of these are like that. So they're going with the flow of the curve of something, the curvature of things. Here they put a nice background shadow that brings all the items off the page. And that's a nice way to do it. Okay, but this is like contour, going with the shape of the vessel. Wherever it's rounded, the shape of it, that's the line they're making. It's not straight lines when you're cross-hatching this. That's, I'm not sure that's ink, but it's a nice drawing. Okay, so I think you get the idea. And this is a pretty good one too. A lot of intensity back here. But that brings forth all the subject matter. And look at the cast shadows. Light coming from this area and not this. And this is a good representation of ellipses too. I'll start pointing that out because you're going to do an ink drawing with ellipses. Three or more containers. But some container that is rounded, when it's sitting on a table and you're looking at it, down at it at an angle, it has an ellipse. The ellipse is the oval shape. At the top, the lid right here, and here, and here, and the bottom has an ellipse too. It's not straight across there. If you're looking straight across at it from the table surface, then you will see no ellipse possibly, because you're looking straight at it from the surface. You'd have to be, eye level will have to be down at the bottom of the surface of the table, looking across at these areas, and then they would be straight. But if you start raising up, standing up, or sitting up, looking at the items on the table, you're going to see the ellipse. It starts to appear, and it changes with your eye level. So if you were to stand up or be on a chair looking at it, the ellipse would be almost completely a half circle down there, because the container is round. If you tip it up and look at the bottom, it's totally round, right? Put it on the table and look at it from an angle, it's all perception. Then it looks like there's sort of an oval shape there, or a lisp. Let me show you some other images of this. This is a breakdown of what's going on with it. So, you have to, if you were to pick up this container with your hand and raise it up to eye level, then you wouldn't see the ellipses. They go away. Try it. When you put your still life together and you have cups or glasses or bottles, pick one up and raise it up to your eye level. You'll see, well, no, I don't see the ellipse now. Raise it up past your eye level, way up above your head, and you'll see the bottom ellipse appear. There's an oval shape there showing the round bottom. But it's not completely round like a circle, because it's not completely over your head. It's in front of you still. So it's all perception. You can change that perception by moving this item all the way around your eye view, your eye levels, and that ellipse will change. So we're just asking you to put it on a table, 3 or more items. Here again is the ellipse at the top. As you're looking down into the container, there's ellipses all through this with the shape it is. And then you represent that with your light source when you're doing your contour hatching or stippling or whatever you're going to use. And then show the ellipse at the bottom right here. That ellipse has to be shown too. Because a lot of students send me something with an ellipse on the top and the bottom straight. And it isn't like that. Really look at what you set up. You're going to get 3 containers, right? And it's best to overlap them like this rather than having them just 1, 2, 3, all, symmetrically lined up. That's boring. That's not a good composition. So the composition is what you want to work on as well when you're laying a scene out you're going to draw. So overlap them like this, one in front of the other. This is really breaking down where the ellipses are. Actually, the ellipse gets wider at the bottom than the top, because the top is closer to your eye level. Like if this was a real tall vessel and it was way up here by your eye level, that would be less of an oval shape up there and more on the bottom, because it's closer to your eye level. Here's a drawing student did showing ellipses at the top, and they're kind of slight, right? That one is, because it's closer to your eye level. So it's a slight ellipse. And then down at the bottom, a little bit more, because it's away from your eye level more. But all of these have an ellipse at the bottom. Don't forget the ellipse at the bottom. And then when you're shading, of course, you have shadow sides, inside and out. The inside will be the opposite of the outside, because when light is hitting on this side, it isn't on the inside, it's hitting on the opposite side. Okay, so you really want to pay attention to that as well. Here's another drawing of it. Big ellipse, 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 ellipse. And at the top of all the containers as well. Okay, showing the inside. Lit up on this side, and the inside on that side, right? Because this is blocked off by the cup, wall of the cup. And then on this side, it's light. So they're opposite when you're doing the inside. Glass is always distorted or has a lot of different lights and darks in it. You have to look for them when you see it. When you're setting this up in your light source, you want a single light source coming from one direction or the other, not from the back or the front, because it's really not going to take on this effect. You're not really going to get a light side and a dark side if you put it at your light source directly behind or directly in front. And it's going to be harder to get a shape out of it. And then lastly, this one, which has a very slight elisp, but they're still there. At the top, you don't see one at this bottle because that's at your eye level. You don't see the back of it either because it's behind this. But when you're overlapping them, you're going to show partially part of the elisp at the bottom and the top of each container. I know this is a square container. I'm asking you to use 3 or more rounded containers as a still life, overlapping them, okay? So I'd like you to use ink, but maybe you don't have to necessarily. You could use other media to do this, but I want the elisp. That's the very important part, and the shadow areas, all the shading, okay? All right, so let's go back. Any questions on elisp, let me know. I'll have a video posted about elisps as well, and some ink techniques to get textures and stuff. You saw the ink techniques from before on number 16, and those show the rounded surfaces. And I'll provide one in today's videos, group of videos, that will show more texture making and stuff, okay? So look at those and get those done. And we'll talk about number 10 next week. Start thinking about your final and what you're going to pick for your final. It may be one of these. So you do have the last week to do that. But if you have a lot of prior assignments you haven't turned in, you better get those to me ASAP. Because we're heading out and to the end of the term now. All right.